Hello, and welcome to the Empowered Learning Podcast. This is your host, Andy Binnitz. On today's episode, we welcome Billy Akers. Billy was raised in a military home and as a pastor and missionary's kid. He's a graduate of the esteemed Virginia Military Institute, an accomplished lifelong salesperson, a voracious reader and learner, and a big believer in the value of discipline, standards, and communication. Welcome, Billy.
Hello, Billy. How you doing today?
Andy, I'm doing great. Good to see you, man.
It's good to see you too, man. I hope you had a great holiday. We're just coming out of the Christmas and New Year's. You and Lisa had a great time.
We did. As a matter of fact, we had Christmas, New Year's, her birthday, and my birthday.
Oh, wow. Kind of all jammed in one spot, huh?
Exactly.
I love it. Well, we got snow on the ground, and it's beautiful out there. A little chilly, but it's a beautiful place to live, isn't it?
It is. We love it in Cortez. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. Awesome. Well, Billy, you and I have known each other for probably about a couple years now, maybe a little bit longer, and had lots of really interesting conversations, which is really why I wanted to have you on the podcast, just because I know from those conversations that you just have a wealth of information and wisdom that I would love for you to share with our guests or with our listeners. But before we dive into that, I'd love for them to get a little bit of an idea of who you are, kind of your background, and then we'll dive into a little bit more of what you're doing now and your thoughts on leadership and learning.
Awesome. A little about me. I'm 63 as of this past Christmas Day. Mm-hmm. Semi-retired here in Cortez. Live with my beautiful wife Lisa on Crooked Sky Ranch in Cortez. A little about my early years. I was raised by my mom and dad being a pastor, retired military, and then called into the ministry while he was TDY in Thailand. And my mom was a worker outside of the home. And I had a brother and sister, both younger. And we were raised in a Christian home. We had Christian mores and military discipline. So we had an enlightened raising, so to speak. My dad was very positive mental attitude type, very aggressive go-getter type, and that trickled down to me. I'll tell you, I had two books I wanted to show you. I can remember, other than the Bible, two books my dad gave me at an early age reading. I guess it was around fifth grade. And one was The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz, and I still have it today. And Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan. Awesome books. But I always remember those two as the first two my dad gave me. And one, obviously, Pilgrim's Progress kind of has a spiritual or biblical side. And then The Magic of Thinking Big is just that positive mental attitude, that growth type book. And I loved them both. And it led to a number of other readings and endeavors. Books. I always believed that leaders are readers. Books have enhanced my life in a number of different areas, from knowledge to growth, physical or spiritual and mental growth. I think reading expands your horizons. It opens your mind, builds vocabulary. But anyway, I was raised reading. My dad was a big reader. He had a library of books. He always had a stamp that he stamped on all his books, inside cover, from the library of Don Akers. But we grew up that way, and never went to the same school more than 2 years because of the military and church aspect of our raising. And after high school, went to Virginia Military Institute. I ran track, and I visited VMI for a track meet, and just fell in love with the place. And because Daddy was retired Air Force, it kind of was a nice fit. But I went to VMI, majored in electrical engineering. After college, I didn't get the job I wanted, so I went into sales. And pretty much all my working career has been sales oriented. in car dealerships, ran car dealerships, worked every aspect of a car dealership, owned a couple of restaurants, started out in food sales. But that's basically where it's gotten me today here in Cortez, where when we came here kind of semi-retired, my wife loves riding horses throughout the canyons and this area. I told her I'm going to get her a sign for the barn that says a woman needs two animals in her life, the horse of her dreams and a jackass to pay for it. So she's enjoying that, and I'm semi-retired. I'm actually selling vehicles at a local car dealership here in Cortez on a simple schedule, and I enjoy going home and working on the ranch.
I love it. I love it.
That's where I'm at.
I love it. That sounds like quite the journey there, huh? So you went to VMI. Did you serve in the military, or did you just go to VMI and then go straight into your career?
Went into my career, tore my knees up, so I did not go. The first war in Afghanistan, I was on the phone with my roommate who was on call at Langley Air Force Base, and we were watching the war, and a number of our classmates were in A-10 Warthogs over Baghdad and all the flak. Wow. But I did not get to. Not get to.
Gotcha. You mentioned track. I ran track as well back in the day. What events did you run?
I was a diverse athlete. I ran hurdles and high jumped and threw the shot put and discus.
Wow, that is quite diverse. Usually the shot putters are bigger fellas, not the ones that are running fast. So that kudos to you. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And I went to state and high jump and shot put and disc. So it was kind of unique. But I think a lot of there's a lot of speed necessary to go with the power.
Right.
To do some of those things.
Yeah. So, for sure.
But I enjoyed it.
Well, very good. You said coming out of VMI, you were hoping for an electrical engineering or engineering degree, and I'm not sure, you didn't say exactly how that didn't happen, but it sounded like from there it was pretty much a straight shot into sales. So I guess what was that? What drew you to sales? It sounded like you're in reading your bio, it says that that's always been something that you were naturally gifted in, and you definitely have the ability to just connect with people, and just you're a genuine person. So I could see how that would be, kind of a natural fit. But what drew you to sales?
Because we moved pretty regularly, you had to learn to adapt,
right,
and make friends. I used sports in a lot of that.
Okay.
But I interviewed at Teledyne Brown Engineering in Huntsville, Alabama, and Hewlett Packard. I didn't get the job I wanted. And I had an uncle that was working for a food distributor at the time, and they needed a territorial representative. So I went into sales and got to making too much money and never went back into engineering. So that's how I got into sales, and it's been a natural fit. I used to take the kids Christmas shopping at an outlet mall in Orange Beach, Alabama. And on Black Friday, and we would sit on the bench, and there were just tons of people walking by. And I used to tell them, I say, y'all pick one and I'll talk to them. Yeah. And we had fun with it. And now they can pretty much talk to anybody. So it's pretty neat. It just came natural though.
What a wonderful skill to have. My boys and I were talking, I've got two high school boys, and we were talking about skills that will serve you your entire life. And sales was on that, just being able to just, convey messages. Another one was breaking, complex tasks down into very, smaller, easy to follow tasks. But the ability to talk to people, I think, especially nowadays, is such an underrated skill because of technology, because of, social media or texting. I'm afraid that art is being lost. So I think that definitely makes people stand out if they can, just strike up a conversation and be genuine and real. And what do you think about that?
Communication skills are so important to success in any endeavor, right. I believe. Communication, writing even nowadays. Sure. How do you write a letter when you're so used to using all of these text shortcuts and LOL and SMH and all of that type stuff? I think the arts are diminishing because of technology. Technology is a great tool if we use it correctly.
Correct. Yep.
So yeah, I think public speaking is an asset for people. Being able to strike up a conversation
Right.
is an asset. Having a broader vocabulary, understanding the written word as well as the spoken word, I think are so important.
Right.
That too many of the younger generation, I believe, is missing out on.
Right. Right. I agree. And you mentioned your kids. I'm guessing, just because you're an awesome Christian man, that you want, and I think this is probably true for every parent, you want want better for your kids, right? So I would say, I guess my question to you is, what things growing up, and it sounds like you had a supportive, loving family environment, which unfortunately that is kind of rare at this point, but what were some things that you tried to instill in your kids to help set them up for success?
Little things like the Thanksgiving, the Black Friday activities.
Yep.
I think, and they have all college educated. They've all learned to write and communicate, and it amazes me the level that they can communicate, which I think is higher than my abilities. So some of the letters and papers I've seen them write, posts that they've done, I couldn't be more proud of the way they communicate. But I tried to instill a discipline. I remember growing up, being from the military background, cleaning my room 3 times before it was done right, according to Dad.
Right.
And I don't like to think of myself that harsh, but I like to instill discipline. I like them to have common sense,
right,
in order to solve problems and handle issues and this, that, and the other. So I think just daily disciplines, I think, is most important. I know if you've ever seen the Admiral, I can't remember the Admiral's name, that did the speech, the college graduation speech, and he talked about making up your bed.
Make your bed. Yeah, that's a great book. Great
and
book.
starting out your day, doing something, accomplishing something, and then moving on from there. That's something. And I always remember kids, before they leave the house, that bed needs to be made.
Yep.
But he really brought it to light in his book.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'll have to find that in the show notes and put that in there. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was a Navy admiral that it was phenomenal. Great book. You mentioned a couple times the word discipline, and I think that nowadays that has a very negative connotation. And if I'm not a word scholar, but I'm pretty sure discipline comes from the word disciple, which just means to teach and to grow and this kind of stuff. I guess, what is your take on that word discipline? Is that more punitive? Is that more learning? What is when you think of the word discipline, where does your mind go? Well,
I guess you could, if you break it down and you look at it as a noun, or you look at it as a verb, know.
Yep.
But you don't. I think of it in the sense of disciplines more than disciplines as far as pertaining to yourself, as opposed to not sparing the rod, so to speak.
Right. Sure.
And I think discipline in all aspects of your life just will make your life brighter. I honestly believe that if you're disciplined in how you eat, you're going to live a healthier, more pain-free lifestyle or life. If you discipline yourself on what goes into your mind, or what you see with your eyes, or even what you speak with your mouth, it makes a difference in your life as well as others around you.
Right.
So discipline, I look at more self-inflicted or self-related when I think of discipline.
Right. So,
yeah. But I had plenty of it growing up, coming from that military background.
Sure. Right. Well, and I'm sure you are thankful for that upbringing, and just that, giving you this high standard. And that's another one that kind of has a negative connotation at this point. Like, I think, if you come about it the right way, having high standards is a good thing. It's good to strive. It's good to stretch, right? If you always get things easy to you, then will you ever learn what it takes to really buckle down and work hard to get something, right?
Correct. And I just saw something today. It said, Franklin Roosevelt, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor.
A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Franklin Roosevelt. Yeah. So I thought that was neat. And I think today, so many times we don't have standards anymore. I think society has gotten lazy and lackadaisical. So putting a standard out there would make them have to reach and get off the couch, so to speak.
Right. Well, and we could go very deep in certain directions, which maybe we want to, maybe we don't. But this whole idea of your truth is what you make of it. I think that's a very slippery slope. I mean, I think truths are truths, yes. and whether that hurts your feelings or not, there are certain things that you can't argue with, even if that doesn't align with your current thinking at this point. But
that's right. That's right. We had a discussion today, me and a friend on the phone, and we were talking about feelings and the truth. We were talking about the Bible in this sense, but the truth is the truth. If it hurts your feelings, it's not my fault. It's your fault.
Right.
So, but anyway.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well,
we were also talking about. Go ahead.
I was going to change subjects, so go ahead and finish that, and I'll ask the next question.
No, I was just going to tell you we were talking about career earlier, and I saw another quote: "Grind while they rest, study when they party, and you'll like what they dream."
I love it. That's good. That's really good. That separates you out from the pack.
So that was a neat quote we got today. But go ahead now. What were you going to say now?
So I know that you had mentioned even in your little bio of just kind of working through sales, but lots of different areas. Obviously, you've worked with probably hundreds of different people throughout the years. What kind of person do you just love working with? What are the qualities of a person that just makes it a joy to work with?
Obviously, someone that's disciplined, someone that's on time, someone that is aggressive at their job, someone that you don't have to micromanage or you babysit.
Right.
A leader, someone that takes initiative.
Right.
I have a hard time, and I'm of another generation because I work with a lot of people that are 30 to 40 years old. And they may not put as much emphasis on or prioritize, so to speak, some of the things that my generation was raised with.
Sure.
And now, a brief commercial from today's sponsor.
Hey guys, Andy Bennett's owner and president of Interactive Learning. Our awesome little company has been around for close to 20 years now, and our core purpose and mission is to empower the future of education with innovative solutions through engaging technologies and leadership programs. We are blessed to work with a wide range of markets, including K-12, trades, corporate, and government. Interactive Learning is also proud to serve our nation's JROTC programs with over 3,000 units and 500,000 cadets. For our podcast listeners today, we have a special offer just for you. It's called our Class Tech Discovery Session. This is incredibly helpful for teachers, administrators, tech personnel, really anybody involved in helping students learn with technology. Here's what you get with the Class Tech Discovery Session. It starts with a short Zoom call. We'll talk about your class needs, your wants, desires, really your class wish list of ed tech. Then we'll touch on your timelines and budgets, plus any constraints that your district might be facing. Next, we'll look at new tech and new solutions, the latest and greatest out there that might be applicable to you and your district. And if you're interested, we'll even demonstrate these crazy cool, cutting edge technologies just for you. Finally, we'll give you an idea of costs and professional development and how we and our team will support you moving forward. Again, that is Interactive Learning's Class Tech Discovery Session. Request your session now by texting Discovery to 970-739-2229 or emailing Discovery to andy@intlrn.com. Request your school's highly informative Class Tech Discovery Session today.
And now, back to the Empowered Learning Podcast.
There's different generational, strengths and weaknesses. What are some things that, what are some life lessons that you could give to those younger generations that you think would serve them well? I realize that's kind of a broad question, but you being that you've been a leader in the past, I'm sure there are things that, man, I wish they really had this skill and that would really serve them well.
I look at the younger generation, and the first thing I would say to those of the younger generation is listen to the older folks.
Mm-hmm.
They have already experienced and failed.
Right.
So you don't have to.
Right.
And it will save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of pain.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to say about conversing, hanging out with, and relating with the older generation.
Right.
I think if the younger generation could understand that the president of the United States or the president of a major company started to be that person when they got out of college, whether it was the president of the United States became involved in politics at an early age, or the successful entrepreneurs or business owners or corporate CEOs and such started when they got out of college, when nowadays so many people of that age don't even have jobs and or are not endeavoring, so to speak, to gain a career or plan for a future.
Right.
So and you remember being young. I remember being young. It was a different time. Technology may not have been as big a factor, but we still had other things that drew us away from maybe what we needed to do or needed to accomplish to be on point.
Right.
But I would say, for instance, you think of a guy coming out of high school and graduates at 18. Not to say everybody needs to go in the military, but if they went in the military and endeavored to be the best person in that field, went to OCS, became an officer at 38 years old, which to an 18-year-old is over the hill. But at a 40, 50, 60-year-old, 38 is young.
Right.
They get out of the military, they retire on full pension, full benefits, and they can go out and get another career tomorrow because everyone's looking to hire someone like that.
Yeah.
And the income that they can generate from retirement from one and then from a retirement from another. Yeah. If they would just have the foresight, and whether it's a military or something else, a lineman at the electric company. I see so many people that go into a trade like that, and what a retirement income they have. Right. It's just, so it's having that foresight. So that's kind of what I would convey to the younger generation.
I love that. And my mind was kind of going in lots of different directions when you're talking about that. I've had many conversations with my boys about that military as an option, right? For the exact same reasons you talked about. You can retire at, before you're 40, have a full pension, not have a lick of debt, and have all of these skills and be readily, available to be highly sought after in fields that, you would have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in education to get to that point. So definitely right there with you. Another thing that kind of just sparked my imagination or just thought process when you're talking about that is this idea of starting young, right out of high school, whether that's going into a trade or going into military, but thinking of that kind of like, because a lot of the conversations you and I have had has been around money and investments and different things like that, and the power of compounding, right? I think the same can be said about compounding your career. Start early, start laying those bricks in that thing, and then by the time you're 10 years into an organization, which at this point is a long time because people change so often, you have set the groundwork for a wonderful future. So anyways, those are just some of the thoughts as you were talking. That was brilliant.
And you don't have to, you're talking to a young person about military, and all they think of is crawling through the mud with a rifle. Right. There are so many technology oriented positions. Sure. Go in the Air Force.
Yep.
Sit behind a computer and fly a drone. Mm-hmm. There's so many things. Be a doctor. Let the military pay for your doctor, your medical school.
Right.
There's so many things that if you really delve in and learn, what it can do for you, you can learn at an early age and like you said, accelerate that career path.
Absolutely. So you've mentioned actually the age of 18, which is kind of that magical age coming out of high school and going into your new career. Asked things kind of around this, but along that line, if you could go back and give yourself, your 18-year-old self, some advice, knowing what you do now, years past, what advice would you give yourself at 18 years old?
Whatever you choose, stick with it. And benefit from it, okay, and make yourself better in it. That's probably what I would tell myself.
That's really good. Really, really good. Awesome. Well, Billy, it doesn't seem like it's been very long, but time flies when you're having fun. So actually, before I dive into this, because you had the coolest question when we were kind of going back and forth, and I should have had it readily available here, but you had a cool story about pulling it up here. Darn it. Sorry. A grab bag. You said something about, your 15 seconds of fame. That's too cool of a story. We can't finish this podcast without you telling us your story of your 15 seconds of fame.
My 15 seconds of fame. I was a 1982 NCBA light heavyweight boxing champion. Okay. And it was on HBO, mm-hmm, and Larry Holmes was one of the commentators.
Okay.
So that was kind of in your communication skills, mm-hmm, you always want to have something that brings up conversation. Sure. And that for me, for so many years, mm-hmm, brought up conversation. Absolutely. And people would ask questions and do this, that, and the other. I'll tell you another quick story. Okay. Back at VMI, Ronald Reagan was always someone that I lifted up and really just thought hung the moon type of, mm-hmm, a person.
Right.
Great politician, great president, great husband to Nancy. Some, mm-hmm, of the stories you hear. But Ronald Reagan starred in a movie called Brother Rat.
Okay.
And at VMI, freshmen are called rats. They're the lowest form of life. Okay. And so at any rate, he starred in a movie called Brother Rat. Eddie Arnold debuted in that movie. And it, mm-hmm, was about life at VMI. And it was about barracks confinement, penalty tours, and demerits, and such. And they played on a baseball team, him and Eddie Arnold. And at any rate, he was the president. And if you Googled Ronald Reagan Yorktown speech, okay, before he came on national TV, okay, mm-hmm, he made an announcement. I guess about 4 months earlier, VMI, the cadets were to march in parade at that event. Okay. And I had written him like a 4-page handwritten letter.
Oh, wow.
Dear cool. Mr. President, I love your movie about the Virginia Military Institute, mm-hmm, Brother Rat, and blah, blah, blah. And I know you understand demerits, confinement, and penalty tours.
Mm-hmm.
You as a head of state can have the power of clemency and can grant the Corps of Cadets amnesty. And, and basically, P.S., if you can't see it in your heart to grant us amnesty, could you send me an autographed picture?
I love it. That's
Oh,
great.
there was some scuttlebutt over at
Uh-huh.
Smith Hall, which is the admin building,
Uh-huh.
and that someone from Washington had called. Well, there was a VMI cadet over the mailroom at the White House.
Okay.
He got my letter and it went through.
Oh
So
my goodness.
I got on White House stationery from the secretary.
Mm-hmm.
Your request is under consideration.
Oh, that's
Find
awesome.
find your autograph picture under separate cover. So I got an autograph picture to Billy W. Akers with very best regards, Ronald Reagan. I've got it hung up in the bedroom, and then next to it in the same frame is that letter.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the first thing he did when he got up to make his speech at Yorktown, when he greeted Mitterrand, President Mitterrand, all the guests, the governor, he said, I'd like to do one of my more lighter jobs, or however he worded it.
Mm-hmm.
And on this day of freedom, I'd like to grant the Corps of Cadets of the Virginia Military Institute amnesty.
That's
Everyone
awesome.
went crazy.
That
The
is
girls,
so cool.
the girls that type up all of the confinement sheets and penalty tours sent me 24 donuts because they didn't have to type them up anymore. And we got off barracks confinement and demerits erased and such. But that was a neat. So Ronald Reagan is even more so one of my great favorites.
Absolutely.
But 2 stories from way back.
I love it. That's really cool. And the power of writing, like you were saying before, you never know,
Yes.
right? How much of an impact that can make.
Exactly.
That's very cool. That's really cool story. Really cool story. I'm gonna give you one more grab bag question here. Everybody gets a different one of my list here. So we'll do a little spinner here just so we can randomize this. And whatever question we got, I got it off to the side here. So let's see which one it is. Question 18. So Billy, let's see here. Come on now. Question 18 is, what is the most important lesson that you've learned over your career?
What is the most important lesson I've learned over my career?
Yep.
I like to sum it up in Zig Ziglar's, from one of Zig Ziglar's books, one of his phrases: be nice to folks on the way up. You might see them again on the way back down.
Love it.
So that's one thing. That's one lesson that has stayed with me for years. And there again, I say readers are leaders. Your life can grow immensely by simply reading books. And I've got books. My wife and we've got books all on this. I guess this is 24-foot long bookcase behind me.
Wow.
And I think you can learn so much from others, and you may not be able to talk to them personally,
right?
But you can learn from their books. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. Very cool. And then everybody on the podcast gets the same 3 questions. So we're going to ask you 3 key questions, Mr. Akers. Question number 1. I know that you had thought about this ahead of time, but who is the leader? And I think I have an idea of who this might be. Who is the leader that you most admire and try to emulate?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a sensitive leader. He was sensible, and he left a legacy. I think with his life, from acting to politics.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's was a little bit before my time, but definitely reading on all of the impact that he made, and like you said, just the type of leader he was. You don't have to be a dictator. You don't have to be pompous and kind of separate. You can relate to people, and I can see how you would relate to him just knowing the type of guy that you are. So that's great. I love
and a sense of humor. He had a grand sense of humor. If you had a minute, you just Google Ronald Reagan jokes and listen to him. He had some good ones.
I saw a video that my boys were watching, or maybe I was watching, and I showed it to them. It was the one where he was doing a speech and someone popped a balloon, and it was after the assassination attempt, and he's like, "Miss me." I'm like, who would think
exactly
that, right? I mean, come on. I love it.
Yeah, he was quick.
That's impressive. That's impressive. All right, question number 2. What learning has most impacted you in the last year? I know that you're a lifelong learner, but I would say, rather in the last 12 months or so, what would you say is the most impactful learning that you've experienced?
Well, reaching the age of 63, I think you have a tendency to prioritize things in your life. You realize that life is much shorter on the downside, and you want to reassess your life. You want to think about how and if you've made an impact and on who, and what last minute changes you may want to make.
Right. Yeah.
So last 12 months, I'd probably say reprioritizing what's important.
Gotcha. I love it. Very cool. Yeah. Thank you for that. And last one, as the name implies, we are in the Empowered Learning Podcast. So I love this. We were talking about this right before we started recording, is that this podcast is a lot of fun for me just because I get to talk to such a wide variety of folks, right? It's not all educators. It's not all military folks. It's anybody that, that values learning, that values leadership. So this question hits everybody a little bit differently, but you, Billy, how would you empower learning for future generations? What would you do?
I kind of hit on that earlier, but when you hear things, you go and listen to a speech, or even if you watch a movie, whatever it may be, you're only going to retain 40 to 60% of that experience. So I would challenge those that hear or watch or go after or read 40 to 60%. That's not all you need from whatever that experience was. So you have to go back and get that other 60 to 40% that you didn't get. And you go back again. This, for instance, this book, it was really unique. I read this book back in for the first time. My dad gave it to me in like 1972, it's probably 1975. And to read the highlights, the things I underlined at that time, and then several years back, maybe 5, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, I read it again. And all of those things that I had highlighted and underlined, they didn't mean as much because of the experiences I have had and the learned knowledge, if you will, that I had acquired over the last 40, 50 years. So I say, whatever you endeavor to do, get all you can get, because, in this case, you're not going to get it all up front.
Right.
And then, of course, the things I mentioned earlier to the younger generation, I think the more you broaden your mind, the more opportunities and possibilities you're going to have.
Yeah. So, no, I love it. And it's kind of funny as you were mentioning that, the idea of the importance of rereading and how, you've read a book or we're both, Christians, you read a scripture, and at a certain point in your life, you're like, okay, that's good. It kind of washes over you, but in the right context or the right situation, that hits very differently. And that kind of hits on your point of the importance of rereading that, because your life experiences, the way that, that word may impact you in that moment is going to be different depending on all of those things, all of those aspects.
Yes. I might add one more thing. There's a book. Yeah. I can't remember the guy's name. I've got his book up here somewhere, but he talked about knowledge.
Okay.
And you've heard the saying, knowledge is power. Well, to those that listen to that, know that that's not true. You can be the wisest man in the world sitting on a mountain in Tibet, and you're no more powerful than the homeless guy downtown.
Right.
It's the use of knowledge that makes the difference. And there's several different knowledges. There's read knowledge, book knowledge, but then there's experience knowledge. It's knowledge that you come through through living and experiencing life, the ups and downs. But the use of knowledge is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's something that I think people don't always understand,
Right.
and know that what they have can blossom and develop into who knows what.
Mm-hmm.
Think of the knowledge that Bill Gates had, or Ronald Reagan had, and how he used that knowledge to get to the positions or the levels
Mm-hmm.
that they achieved.
Right.
So I think that's important.
Absolutely.
Talking about knowledge there.
One of my good friends is a Bible scholar, and he really focuses in on Proverbs and the importance of Proverbs. And I think I'm going to butcher it, but it's basically wisdom is the application of knowledge. You may have all of this head knowledge in your, up there, but if you're not putting it to use, if you're not sharing it, what good is it, right? So wisdom is the application of knowledge, and I think the world could use a lot more of that.
That's exactly right. And I mentioned that quote earlier. Grind while they rest, study when they party, and you'll live like they dream. Well, one Proverbs is my favorite. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, and consider her ways. That was one, that's I've utilized for years in my life. So don't be lazy. You'll not accomplish anything.
I love it. I love it. Well, Billy, I really appreciate the time. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation here. Anything before we kind of wrap up? Any parting thoughts or parting wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Ride the wave of life and excel in all you do. Hey.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, my friend. I really appreciate it. I look forward to sharing this out with the world and just getting all these great vibes and great wisdom out there. So thank you.
Thank you, Andy. It's been a pleasure, man.
Yep.
Good talking to you again. Bye. Bye-bye.